Hello and thank you for returning to MMA Alerts. Justin Gaethje is here today to discuss his upcoming battle in the UFC. The highlight reel factory appears to require considerable persuasion from the UFC before they will re-engage Justin Gaethje to fight Michael Chandler, albeit when and against whom he fights next is still up in the air. Before we go any further, if you want to show your support for the channel, click the like button on the video. Since his bout with Max Holloway at UFC 300 in April of last year, Gaethje has remained on the sidelines, in which Bless stunned the Galaxy by defeating Gaethje in the final second. Gaethje announced his intention to rest and recuperate following that loss, but he has been discussing potential opponents for his next bout in recent weeks. For example, during a recent conversation between Gaethje and Helen Yi brought up the fact that Chandler has been broaching the subject of running it back with Gaethje. Victory against Chandler was a unanimous decision in 2021 for the former World Series of Fighting champion. According to Gaethje, a rematch with Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira would be more appealing than fighting Iron Mike again. I lean towards the novel. It would be exciting to see a fight between Poirier and me if it were his final bout. If Chandler and I were to fight each other, I wouldn't consider either of us a contender, but I do consider us to be contenders overall. With just one, I'm satisfied. I really hope so. Dan Hooker is the one I'm considering. If Alexander Volkanovski is returning to lightweight, I am not sure. Max Holloway is either returning to 155 or is on his way there. That rematch sounds fantastic to me. However, with the third spot, you have many choices. Based on my previous statement, I believe the bout will take place in Las Vegas in March. I intend to attend. Watching the outcome will be fascinating. The UFC probably would have been more interested in a Gaethje-Poirier 3 bout if Poirier had lost recently and Oliveira had defeated Chandler at UFC 309. A large number of fans would undoubtedly be interested in watching that exhibition match. It seems like Gaethje isn't too thrilled about taking on Poirier once more either. Who do you think Gaethje should face next? This is Joe Rogan's tirade against Conor McGregor. According to Joe Rogan, Conor McGregor's career takes a turn for the worse at a certain point when he is no longer fighting in the octagon and is instead making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Another year has passed without McGregor engaging in combat as 2024 draws to a close. It is still unclear when or if the controversial star would fight again in June. He was scheduled to battle Michael Chandler, but his plans were scrapped due to a broken pinky toe. A little while back, Rogan hosted an episode of his podcast featuring the legendary Josh Brolin. Rogan made it plain that the fighting legacies of McGregor and Jon Jones are now drastically different when Brolin requested the podcast host to compare the two, because he is also a fan of mixed martial arts. Jon is not like the others. It's not the same. Money was a major factor in Conor's many acts of self-destruction. He walked away from the fight with Floyd Mayweather with a ton of cash, took a long break before returning to mixed martial arts, and since then he hasn't been himself. In my opinion, that's simply the same kind of thing, a lot of partying money. Conor was a sassy guy when he was young, but now he's just a wild card. It is true that Jon Jones has also been the subject of several controversies and accusations, but in the case of Jones, this guy is still one of the top fighters in the game, and his only loss was due to a disqualification. The man holds the title of heavyweight champion in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Meanwhile, Conor's lone triumph since 2016 occurred in 2020, and that was against an elderly Donald Cerrone. But what do you think of Rogan's perspective on this? Did you think Conor's huge bout with Mayweather, which made him a ton of money? Where did everything start to go wrong? In his training for his bout with Colby Covington on December 14th at the UFC event in Tampa, Walking Buckley has admitted that he has been training with Tyron Woodley, who is all too familiar with chaos, following months of animosity with Colby. In 2020, Woodley squared off against his old ATT comrade for the first time. Many people thought Woodley would win Covington because he had just won his welterweight title bout and Usman had just ended his reign. Chaos, nevertheless, dominated the bout with his absurd wrestling and pressure, so that didn't happen. The bout was stopped in round 5 when Woodley hurt his ribs. In 2024, though, Buckley faces the contentious Covington, putting his 5-fight winning streak to the test. The dominant welterweight recently spoke with Middle Easy and shared this assessment of Woodley's impact on his training camp. Any advice I can receive from my man Tyron Woodley, who has been in there with Colby Covington before, I will surely take in preparing for this fight. He dropped by a couple of times to give me some solid ideas. With his knowledge of his antics and Woodley's potential blunders, we can improve my game to a point where we can win. Whether Buckley defeats Covington and divulges some of Woodley's counsel is something to look forward to. It wasn't long ago that Woodley was regarded as one of the top fighters in the world, even though he ended his career on a 4-fight winning streak. Putting that aside, was Buckley victorious over Colby? Somebody may have wondered if this is it for him in terms of his peak performance. The perennial contender will be 37 in February and has a record of 2-2 in his past 5 races. To be fair, he has only lost once in that stretch, and that was in a title battle. Yuri Prochazka is roasted by Conor McGregor Makhachev, who also announces his next fight. As the rising light heavyweight contender seems to know who Yuri Prochazka will face next, Conor McGregor Makhachev is causing a stir on social media with his numerous statements. There has been no official announcement regarding Yuri's next fight, and Ankalaev is stating that he will be competing for the title soon. This past June, the former light heavyweight champion suffered a second consecutive stoppage defeat at the hands of current champion Alex Pereira. It was stated by the Czech boxer in a recent interview with CNN Prima. "Without a doubt, I want this fight. Here we have a battle that has simmered for a while, and I couldn't be happier about this chance. It seems like the best course of action right now." In response, Ankalaev made this thought-provoking remark. "This battle is not at a high level. We are witnessing a brawl in a pub. One would expect that news about Yuri's next opponent will be announced soon." There was a lot of discussion about the former champion dropping to 185 pounds not long ago, but that has since died down. Is it possible he's battling Jamal Hill? Regardless, Ankalaev is still pushing for a confrontation with Pantoja. As an example, this was posted by the Dagestani Smashing Machine in another X-related post. "I will defeat Alex Pantoja in March, rematch him in July, and then in October, in Abu Dhabi, defeat one of these dweebs like Yuri or Jamal Hill." It wouldn't be shocking if they fought in March, considering Paredes has stated that that would be his desired fight date and Ankalaev is the top candidate. Jon Jones vs. Poatan was a hot topic leading up to UFC 309 after Bones expressed interest in the match. However, it appears the UFC will make significant efforts to set up Jones vs. Tom Aspinall. The UFC 310 encounter between Alessandra Pantoja and Kaya Asakura is discussed by Asakura. With a goal of deposing current king Alexandre Pantoja, the Japanese superstar intends to cause a stir in the flyweight division. Ooh. You probably just whooped it up if you don't bother with any other mixed martial arts promotions and stick to the UFC. When it was revealed that Asakura would be facing Pantoja next, after holding the bantamweight title for the Japanese promotion Rizin, Asakura stated earlier this year that he was signing with the UFC. Pantoja had previously dispatched of Brandon Royval ranked first and Brandon Moreno ranked second multiple times, therefore the UFC chose to give Asakura a title fight in his octagon debut. The decision was brought up during a recent interview with MMA Junkie, which the 31-year-old completed. This was stated by Asakura. "I'm here to make the UFC flyweight division exciting for fans and give them a ton of fresh fights to look forward to, because let's be honest, it's good for business for the UFC if I win." Anyone who has watched Asakura fight probably wasn't shocked to hear that the UFC had signed him. Asakura is a relentless pressure artist with dangerously heavy hands and strikes. As an example, Asakura defeated Ryoji Horiguchi, a former UFC championship contender and current champion. Consequently, Asakura issued this caution when questioned about his matchup with the champion. "Thus, I differ slightly from my fellow flyweight competitors. It is my intention to take advantage of one of his mistakes in order to put him to sleep. Okay, but stopping Pantoja's rule would undoubtedly be a formidable challenge, as any ardent Asakura supporter would concur. The champion's odds are in the -225 to -250 level for a reason. Mark Hunt's status in the Brock Lesnar fight is being updated in court. Despite the controversy surrounding his 2016 battle with Brock Lesnar, one of the most feared heavy hitters in kickboxing and mixed martial arts history is determined to win his lawsuit against the UFC. After Lesnar's positive drug test following their Pro Wrestling Stars match at UFC 200 became public knowledge, Hunt took the necessary steps to initiate the lawsuit. First of all, the bout was originally a decision victory for Lesnar, but his drug testing results led to the fight being rescheduled to a no contest. Lesnar was able to compete at UFC 200 thanks to an exemption. The UFC allegedly knew that Lesnar would have tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs PEDs before UFC 200, according to Hunt, despite the fact that he hadn't participated in a drug testing pool for 4 months before. Even though the court rejected the case, Hunt is appealing the decision and is even taking on the role of his own attorney. According to this latest case update from Eric McCracken, who is not a lawyer, Hunt is pulling off an excellent job. Mark Hunt will leave an indelible mark on the annals of combat sports law. He appealed his doping case against the UFC this week, and he represented himself. The verdict is still out, but whether you win or lose, combat sports will go down in history books because to this case, it will be ready soon. This response was, however, triggered by McCracken's study. Hunt should have presented a more nuanced case on how the promotion saw his no contest as a loss in order to explain damages if he lacked direct evidence of its effects on him, e.g., pay freeze. After being promoted to co-main and true main, he was demoted to starting the next pay-per-view. I can't wait to watch the outcome of this. Also, if Hunt succeeds, training with Jon Jones following UFC 309. Jon Jones indicated time and time again in the build-up to UFC 309 that he was likely going to retire from mixed martial arts at the event. Jones has not only returned to training after his victory over Stephen Miocic, but he has also made it plain that he intends to keep fighting. In a shocking display of heavyweight champion defense, Jones knocked out Miocic in round 3 with a spinning back kick to the body and subsequent punches. Very soon after the victory. Not retiring, according to Jones, he stepped away from the ring after that. In the video that follows, the famous fighter admits that he is back in the gym. In addition, Bones shared the news on his Instagram page. I am not here to foretell what the future holds, rather, I am here to seize each opportunity that comes my way, no matter how small. We are still on the road. I say we take this to the next level. The struggle continues, and now it's back to UFC 309. This strongly suggests that Jones is planning to return to the ring soon. That is, it is reasonable, considering that he is now 37 years old and has only fought twice since 2020. Will the long-awaited bout between Jones and Tom Aspinall, the current interim heavyweight champion, be able to be finalized by the UFC? Following the events of UFC 309. In order for that to happen, Jones claims the UFC will have to give him a small sum of money. You may remember that Jones used similar language the last time a contract dispute arose between the UFC and him over the booking of Bones vs. Francis Ngannou. Could anything similar happen again? Is Jones vs. Aspinall going to be so big that the UFC will stop at nothing to make it happen? After Nikita Hand recently defeated Conor in court, Conor McGregor takes it out on her. James Lawrence was justly punished, he tweeted. It is indeed terrible what they did. A terrible liar named Nikita Hand made an appeal. After that, he wrote, falsely accused a man of and lost in response to a tweet that praised Nikita's spirit and resolve. Two men wrongfully accused, one cleared, the other soon to follow. That was Conor's second tweet to his fans addressing the entire affair. The absolute exoneration of James Lawrence is yours to celebrate. You were shown twice that this horrific claim was unfounded. The treatment you received here is just shameful, disgraceful. I eagerly await your vindication and the accountability of those responsible for lambastos in court. The events of that night are known to us. Despite everyone's knowledge, it went unnoticed. Even though everyone there that night denied Nikita's claims, his lies were disregarded. Nevertheless, James, there were sections where people did trust you for some reason. Plus, it seems like they totally didn't trust Danielle Keeley. This is hilarious. It appears they also didn't believe Nikita much, what with the damages being $60,000 and $88,000. Interesting figures, indeed. What gave them that idea? She initially claimed to be gay. By the hotel's security and forced to flee the premises on foot. Stupidity personified. I will never understand how these white falsehoods were believed. In a court of sentiment and view, mainstream media has successfully brainwashed the public. It is not true. The court reporting was so ridiculous that it made everyone there chuckle. Unmistakable bias. The rules of proof and truth do not apply here. Opinions and sentiments are being judged in a kangaroo court. We still have a ways to go, by a significant margin. Definitely not. We shall continue to grapple. In the end, truth and justice will win out. Raise the issue again and again, among other things. Continue to excel, James. It was a matter of time till this dirty bee would be exposed, Asakura Makhachev tweeted in response to a tweet on the court case. In addition to reposting the news on his Instagram account, Habib said, "Alcoholic junkie," plus many more facts to come out. I believe him.